Hey guys, in today's lesson, you're going to learn how to politely disagree with people in English. Now, a huge part of English conversation and communication is to express your ideas and your opinions on different topics. We just naturally do this in conversations, personal conversations, professional conversations. We always share our opinions and our ideas. So naturally, there will be times when you hear an idea or an opinion and you don't agree. And that is totally fine. You can say, I disagree, or I don't agree, or you are wrong. But these are a little bit direct, okay? And sometimes if you want to be direct, you can just say, I disagree or I don't agree, and that's okay. But 9 times out of 10, or most times, chances are that you want to disagree in a nice, polite way that doesn't offend people, that doesn't hurt their feelings, that doesn't make them feel bad, and that shows them that you still respect them and you are at least trying to understand where they are coming from, all right? So in today's lesson, you are going to learn, first of all, a simple 4-step formula that you can follow when you want to disagree with people in a polite way. And you're going to learn some fantastic phrases that you can use to disagree. So let's get started. Okay, so here is your 4-step formula to disagree politely. Step 1, listen. Step 2, acknowledge. Step 3, disagree. And step 4, explain why you disagree. All right, so let's take a closer look at these steps. So step 1, listen. This means really listen, okay? Don't just pretend you're listening and think about your argument or wait for the second when you can say, no, I disagree, okay? Really listen with an open mind and at least try to understand where the other person is coming from. It's okay to disagree. It's okay not to share the same opinion as someone, but it's not okay to not respect them and to not give them the chance to explain where they are coming from, okay? So listen, make sure you understand, and if you don't understand, ask some questions to help yourself understand their point of view better, okay? And step 2, acknowledge. Now, acknowledge means to recognize what the person is saying and to show them that you are listening, okay? Say, okay, I hear you, I see where you're coming from, I heard what you said, okay? Acknowledge their perspective or their opinion or their point of view, all right? So after you've done these 2 things, it's time to disagree, okay? Now you can politely disagree, and we're gonna talk about some really nice phrases that you can use here to soften the sound of your disagreement, okay? And after you disagree, you need to be able to explain why you disagree, okay? You need to be able to justify and explain why you feel this way, okay? It's okay to disagree. It's always great to have an opinion, but it's not great when you're having a conversation and somebody asks you to explain and you can't. You don't really know why you believe something or why you think this is a good idea or why you think this is a bad idea. It's not going to make you a strong speaker, and it's not going to help your case, especially if you are trying to convince someone of something or change someone's mind. You have to be able to explain why you feel the way that you feel, all right? So this is your formula that you can follow. Listen, acknowledge, politely disagree, and explain why. All right, so now let's look at some examples of how this formula sounds in reality. How does it look when you put it into practice, okay? So here's our first scenario. Imagine that you are working with a colleague on a presentation for a client, okay? You are preparing a presentation for a client, and your colleague comes up with an idea. Their idea is to add an extra section to this presentation, and you don't like this idea, okay? So again, the scenario is that you're working on a presentation for a client together with another colleague, and your colleague wants to add some more information, a new section, and you don't want to add this new section, okay? So of course you have to be nice to your colleague because you work with them, and you have to be diplomatic, and you don't want to make them feel like their idea is stupid or that it makes no sense, okay? So let's look at how this formula could be applied in this situation. So you think that we should add an additional section on risks, right? I see where you're coming from, but at the same time, do you think that presenting risks to the client at this point might make them worry? Here's another possible response. So you think we should add an additional section on risks? Actually, I hadn't thought of that before. It's an interesting approach, but I'm not sure that it's the best approach for this particular client because they tend to be very risk averse. What do you think? So in both of these examples, we've used this super simple 4-step formula just to structure our answer so that it sounds very polite, okay? So we listened to our colleague's idea, acknowledged what they said, disagreed politely and softly, and also explained why we disagreed, okay? We also opened up the conversation to continue. We said, what do you think? Giving our colleague the chance to share what they think and maybe explain the idea further, or maybe reconsider or rethink the idea altogether, okay? So let's look at another example that might happen in your personal life or in your social life. So here is the scenario, okay? Imagine that you are talking to me. You're talking to me and you're sharing your idea with me, and your idea is that learning English online is not possible, or learning a language online is not possible. You must take a face-to-face class, okay? And I disagree with you. I don't agree. So here's what I might say to politely disagree with you. It sounds like you've had great results from studying in face-to-face classes, so I totally get why you feel that way. But I'm afraid I have to disagree with you on this, because nowadays there's so many amazing courses and resources for learning English and learning languages in general online. So once again, I've disagreed in a way that doesn't make you feel like your idea is ridiculous, okay? It just shows you that I have a different opinion, but I do understand where you're coming from, okay? And the way that I have disagreed with you has left the conversation open for us to keep talking about this topic, and that is one of the keys to a great conversation, okay? You don't want to make the other person uncomfortable, you don't want to make them feel bad, you don't want to offend them, otherwise your conversation is going to be over, okay? So keep this in mind. Now this 4-step formula is fantastic. It works for any situation really, personal or professional, as you can see. Okay, so now that you understand this very simple formula and you understand what it sounds like, how to use it, I'm gonna give you some more phrases that you can use to sound polite and diplomatic. Number 1, I see where you're coming from, but. Number 2, I see what you're saying, but at the same time. Number 3, I've never thought of it that way. Number 4, I get it, but have you thought about. Number 5, I'm not sure I agree with you. Number 6, that's an interesting idea. What do you think about this other idea? Number 7, okay, but what about. Number 8, all right, but have you ever thought about. Number 9, I'm afraid I have to disagree. And number 10, let's agree to disagree. Now this last phrase, number 10, let's agree to disagree, is a great one. And this is for when you have been discussing a topic or discussing an opinion or discussing an idea with someone for a long time and you cannot seem to agree. You just have different opinions and that is that, and you don't want to discuss it anymore. This is a nice way to kind of end the conversation or wrap up the conversation. You can simply say, okay, I see what you're saying, but let's agree to disagree, okay? So let's agree that we don't agree on this topic. Let's leave it at that. Let's finish this conversation, okay? So this is a really useful phrase to have. So there you have it, a very simple but effective formula to disagree with people in a more polite way, and some great phrases that you can use to help you, all right? And one more thing to keep in mind is that your tone is really important when you are disagreeing. It's not just about the language that you use, but it's also your tone of voice and how you say it, okay? So not just the words, but how you actually say them. So if you need to, you can re-watch the examples in this video, pay attention to my pronunciation, my intonation, and my tone of voice. This is very important, and if you're practicing, try to mimic or shadow my examples, and that will really help you with the tone, because it can be difficult. Sometimes you think that you sound polite, but to someone else you don't, all right? So keep in mind that your words are important, the order in which you say these points are important, and your tone of voice is also important. All of these things together are going to make you sound much more polite when you disagree. And again, it's totally okay if you don't agree with someone, that's fine. And sometimes the situation does call for you to be more direct and just say, I don't agree, you're being ridiculous, this is not okay. But a lot of times you want to be more polite, and that is when you can apply this formula and these phrases that we talked about in today's lesson, all right? So if you want to learn more about how you can learn with me, check out the links down below. Thank you so very much for watching, and I will see you soon in the next one.